I did not put this on the agenda, but we will
Food,
call the
it brings
roll,
us together,
right
inspires
after you
joy,
call the
and
meeting
gives
to
us
order.
life. But we can't forget that during this crisis, over 37 million people don't have access to nutritious food. That's 1 in 12 seniors and 1 in 7 children. In fact, millions of kids aren't able to receive a free or reduced price school lunch right now. The good thing is, we can all help. Learn how you can get involved at feedingamerica.org. When we help each other, we nourish ourselves, our families, and our communities.
And we'll do a roll call, right, Sarah?
Yes, Commissioner Spencer,
Present?
Commissioner Dunn,
Present.
Commissioner Stilo, oh,
Present.
Commissioner Barnes,
Present.
Commissioner Roberts,
Present.
Commissioner Wood,
Present.
Commissioner Farr. I think I called everyone. I was going in screen order, so you all reshuffled right in the middle of that. Next, I would like to review with you all the procedures for our meeting, and you should see Planning Commission May 7th, 2020. And then our procedures for tonight. Commissioners are identified on the screen with PC before their names. I would remind you all to please identify yourselves when you're making a motion, and you must be seen on the video in order to vote. All of our votes tonight will be by roll call. Applicants, please use your real names on the screen and keep your video off and your microphones muted until your case is called. And if we have members of the public joining us, we ask that they please use their real name on the screen and use the raise hand feature to be recognized during the public hearings tonight. And when speaking, please begin with your name and address. Anyone calling into the meeting can use *9 to raise their hand to be recognized during the public meeting. Or during the public hearings. And a reminder that this meeting is being broadcast on our YouTube channel and on channel 2 and is being recorded. And those are our procedures. I'll stop so you can go on the agenda.
Thanks, Sarah. Next item is the agenda. Is there a motion to approve the agenda for May 7th, 2020?
Commissioner Dunn moves to approve the agenda of May 7th.
Commissioner Wood, second.
Okay. Commissioner Roberts?
Third.
Or no, I'm sorry, I'm calling the roll. Commissioner Roberts to move to approve the agenda.
Approved.
Commissioner Wood?
Yes.
Commissioner Dunn?
Yes.
Commissioner Spencer?
Yes.
Commissioner Barnes?
Yep.
Commissioner Stilo?
Yes.
Okay, it passes 6-0.
We'd like to look at the approval of the minutes for February 6th, 2020. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
Commissioner Wood, so moved.
Commissioner Dunn, second.
Okay, on the motion to approve the minutes of February 6th, I'll call the roll. Commissioner Roberts?
Yes.
Commissioner Wood?
Yes.
Commissioner Dunn?
Yes.
Commissioner Spencer?
Yes.
Commissioner Barnes?
Yes.
Commissioner Stilo?
Yes.
Okay. Passes 6-0.
Okay. Number 4, the first item on the agenda is PC 2020-05, a master plan development for the gallery lofts at 1007 Armour. I need a staff review on procedure.
Yes, so master plan developments provide an applicant with the opportunity to request flexibility on specific standards for their zoning district on a project. These are public hearing items in which the Planning Commission makes a recommendation to the City Council for approval. We do have the applicant here tonight on this item. I would ask Ryan, are you going to introduce this development?
Sure. Yep, I can. Do you want me to summarize the whole project?
That would be great.
Basically, we have a 49 unit apartment project. It's a mixed income project finance with low-income housing tax credits going in, obviously right between Tays and the community center YMCA. It's an L-shaped, modern contemporary architecture building that orients up against Armour. There's a parking lot in the back. Like I said, it's 49 units. It's a mix of 1s, 2s, and 3s. It's got an art gallery on the first floor with 5 artist studios also there, management offices, bike storage, mail, and office all on the first floor. The floors 2, 3, 4 are mostly units. And then on the 4th floor, there's and all the floors have some storage lockers. And then the 4th floor corner space has a small fitness center plus a community club room with kitchen and everything. We've got, as far as the programming, why we went with the small fitness centers, because we've got a deal with the YMCA to supplement or subsidize the full memberships to everybody that'll live there. So they're going to pay for 45. They're going to pay for 45% of it, and we're going to pay for 55% of it. So everyone there will have a free membership. And then we're also going to have Interurban Art House, nonprofit art group out of Overland Park. That's gotten to be a pretty big deal. They're going to operate the art space on the first floor. So, we tried to focus on, we think it's good design, real contemporary design, brick and hardy materials on the outside. The inside, it's a, pretty standard apartment makeup, but a little bit of, loft twists with some slider doors on some bedrooms, real, crisp finishes with, quartz countertops, granite countertops, slick looking cabinet package and that sort of thing. So, we're pretty excited about it, especially with the art component. And then, taking advantage of the site, we've got we're obviously on the bike lanes with the bike sharing down at the corner by the Y. And we've featured a lot of bike storage in the mix too. So obviously, most of the people there are still going to have cars, but we think it allows itself to kind of fit in with what's becoming, a little more multimodal area. We got 2 bus stops right there too. So that's the gist of it. And I think we had to ask for this new zoning category because of the height and I think it went above. I think it went above the
No,
previous.
Actually, you're fine on the height.
Okay. Gotcha. I think that's the summary, basically, of the project itself. And Patrick may be able to offer more color on the more technical design features.
Ryan, you actually did a better job than I could. So.
Okay.
Not much to add on that. There are balconies on the buildings as well, so gives the residents a little bit of outdoor space. Ground floor units have patios as well. So, but if anybody has any questions, I can certainly answer those. We also have our civil engineer on as well, Brad Freeman, and he can answer any technical questions there may be about the site engineering, stormwater, that kind of stuff.
Brian, just a quick reminder, what's the timeline you're looking at for the project?
We're scheduled, we think we can close by August with MHCC and US Bank, and then so we would start construction shortly thereafter. So we could deliver units, we think, within 12 months. I mean, some people are nervous about delays on the supply chain and things like that with disruptions from COVID-19, but I think we feel pretty comfortable that that's more supply stuff, not necessarily labor or any of that. So I think 12 months is realistic. So next fall we would have units ready to lease.
Commissioner Dunn?
A couple of quick questions. You mentioned mixed income. Can you give me an idea of the range of what we're talking about in terms of mixed income? I know that that's been kind of an ongoing issue within North Kansas City, and concerns about rental rates and those kinds of things. Can you give me an idea of what we're talking about, high end and low end on those?
Sure. It's 2/3 of the units are affordable, and 1/3 are market rate. So I've got them right here. They change here and there, but where they're going to be set. The affordable units will range, and they're all the same type of units. That's the key. Obviously, you can't, you rent the same size unit, that sort of thing, for different rates. So we're ranging on the affordable from $600 up to, 800 into the 800s. And then the market rate units are going to run from, 900s up to, 13, low 13 or mid 1300s, just on the one big 3-bedroom that we have. So the market rate units will be a little bit below what you're going to see the 100% market rate projects that are coming out of the ground right now. They'll be a little bit below that, but they're right in the market rate units will be right in line with City View and O'Reilly's New Deal. But the affordable are discounted pretty significantly to that. I mean, these are really the buzzword is, of course, workforce housing, but I mean, they're for people that qualify income wise, but most of these people have to are working full time, and you may see, where rents of dollars isn't as affordable as they'd like, but it's about as low as you can go and still pay the expenses and the debt. So I am looking though, we do have one of the small 1-bedrooms. It's a little bit below 600. So there is a pretty good range there, but 600, 700, 800 in the affordable range. And then, 900, 1,000, 1,300, 12 and 1,300 on the market rate side.
No, I think that's terrific. I think those are really great low rates in terms of folks be able to get into some new or really affordable housing in the area. So I would really commend you all on that. The only other question I had, and I know you alluded to it, Sarah, on page 3 of the memorandum is that note of proposing the modification of the front building line. If somebody could kind of just explain to me what that modification would be, it would be helpful.
I can get into that in the staff report if you'd like me to go through that now.
The staff report would be fine. Anytime would be fine. That's no problem.
Are there any other questions for the applicant before we move on to staff report? Dave, he's on mute. Dave.
I just have the one question, Ryan. I'm just curious about Tays, that corner there. Is that, have you thought about that piece of property in future plans, or is that just kind of, it is what it is?
I mean, I just, I haven't went after it. I'm trying to get a hold of Ken Harrison to talk about parking that we can work together maybe on peak time stuff. But I think, assuming things get a little bit more back to normal, they're obviously a very viable business, popular place. And I think in the past, people have tried to get that corner and they've wanted an arm. The former owner, I think, wanted an arm and a leg for it. So this deal works even with them there. And, and so it's kind of weird, but it's also, it's why you want to be in a cool urban location with, good burgers and food. And we think it'll be symbiotic because we've got to get them off the property line on the south side of their lot, but I don't think it'll be a major issue because you're not moving any physical structures. But my approach is to Ken is I thought I had his number, but I'm trying to reach out to him through his business, but is just to work out a deal to where we can maybe even have, we'll have enough parking, but it's always nice to have a little extra. And I think he would say they would say the same thing when they get real busy. So, I was thinking, 10 spaces both ways, share it maybe from 10 to 10 and 10 to 10 kind of thing. So.
Okay.
I think it'll be a fine neighbor. It'll smell like what it is. It's, smell like a cookout all the time, but I think it'll work.
Okay. Thanks.
Yep.
Any other questions from commissioners for the applicant? Seeing none, we'll move on to the staff report. Sarah.
Okay, and I'm going to share my screen so that it can show you a few few visuals here. This is the lot in question, 1007 Armour. It is owned by the city. If you have a long North Kansas City memory, you might recall that White Castle was once located here. Tay's Burger Shack is there at the corner of Armour and Lynn. This sits between Tay's and the community center. This is the site plan that's proposed for the property. Getting to Commissioner Dunn's question, while this is zoned R4, its location on Armour Road, it is required to meet the frontage type standards for the walkable B street, which is what Armour Road is in this section in our new zoning ordinance, which requires that buildings be 0 to 10 feet of the front property line for at least a certain percentage of the lot frontage. What they're proposing here is 15 feet back from this from the property line along Armour Road, but it allows them to accommodate a patio and an accessible entrance. If you look at the bottom of that particular sheet that shows the site plan for this property, you'll note the 4 things that are really the key parts of this application, because they're asking for flexibility on 4 standards. 3 of them are really related to setbacks. The change in the front building line for the walkable B street from 10 feet to 15. And then on their setbacks, the interior side it's a 15-foot setback. This really concerns their setback from the community center parcel to the west. The standard is 15 feet. They're requesting flexibility to 2 feet there. What's immediately west of this proposed building is the fire access lane that is really kind of buried under the grass right there. It looks like a grassy area with a very tiny 1-foot wide sidewalk. That's actually the visual cue for our fire trucks if they needed to access the community center during an emergency. That shows the driver where the buried access lane is. It's covered with grass because we don't want other vehicles driving on it. So they're going to come up to the property line there, but there will never be anything built within 20 feet of the building to the west. And then the rear setback, they're asking for a 1-foot variance there. And then also on that sheet, you'll see a table that calculates the parking for this building, because it is a mix of both. It's mainly residential units, but there is a non-residential component with the art studios and the art gallery space. They're requesting a variance from 1.5 parking spaces per unit to 1.25 parking spaces per unit. This table really shows all of the calculations for the parking here, and how you get to what's required to be on the site. This is just the rendering of the front of the building along Armour Road. If you go through the criteria for the approval of a master plan development, staff does feel that the flexibility requested on these 4 standards allows this development to better implement the master plan. It promotes the general public health, safety, and welfare. And we find that the benefits of this flexibility allow the project to meet the intent of the base zoning district, and staff recommends approval of the master plan development. I would be happy to answer any other questions you might have for me.
Sir?
Yes.
Don Stilo. Has the other questions been answered that were brought up in the council meeting?
No, those aren't the subject of this hearing.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Any other questions for staff?
Sarah, I see that Commissioner Dunn, I see that we're looking at 2 actions, the preliminary and the final plats. Is this pretty typical, and is there any concern about any procedural issues that get overlooked by doing this in 2 different actions tonight?
Well, actually, that's the next case. The what's before you right now is just the master plan development. You're going to end up taking 3 actions on this case tonight, starting just with the design. Really, this first one is the site plan and layout and where the building is going to sit.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Okay, so moving on to public comments, I'd now like to open the public hearing for PC 2020-05. Anyone wishing to speak on this item, please raise your hand or dial *9 if joining the meeting by phone.
Well, we have no one who's raised their hand.
Okay, seeing none, can I have a motion to close the public hearing for PC 2020-05?
Commissioner Wood, so moved.
Commissioner Barnes, second.
Second.
Okay, there's been a motion and a second to close the public hearing. Commissioner Roberts,
Yes.
Commissioner Wood,
Yes.
Commissioner Dunn,
Yes.
Commissioner Spencer,
Yes.
Commissioner Barnes,
Yep.
Commissioner Stilo.
Yes.
Okay, the motion passes.
Okay. For my commissioners, is there a motion for case 2020-05?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Wood here. I would move that we recommend approval of the master plan development item PC 2020-05.
Is that with the proposed conditions? Are the proposed conditions?
Staff did not propose any conditions.
Okay, so it's just a motion for approval of the master plan development.
Correct, sir. Yes, sir.
Commissioner Barnes, second.
Okay, on the motion to approve the master plan development, Commissioner Roberts,
Yes.
Commissioner Wood,
Yes.
Commissioner Dunn,
Yes.
Commissioner Spencer,
Yes.
Commissioner Barnes,
Yes.
Commissioner Stilo.
Yes.
The motion passes. I expect this item to be considered by the City Council for final approval on May 19th.
Okay, as Sarah indicated, item 5, we are looking at the next item on the agenda, PC 2020-06, a preliminary and final plat for the gallery lofts at 1007 Armour. Sarah, the staff review on this procedure?
Sure, and this, Commissioner Dunn, this might get a little bit to your question. The purpose of the plat is to subdivide property in a way to make it easier for property to be transferred, to ensure that it meets all the technical requirements set out by the subdivision ordinance. In this case, this property is previously unplatted, but we are also adding a small piece of the community center parcel to this lot. Both properties are currently owned by the city. This application is being made on behalf of the city. It is pretty typical. In this case, staff would consider this a pretty simple action. And so it is pretty typical to consider the preliminary and the final plat on a simple application like this at one time. You would make two motions. One is to approve the preliminary plat. That is an action that's up to the Planning Commission, and then to review the final plat against the preliminary plat and make a recommendation to the City Council. The preliminary plat is the action that requires the public hearing. That would be the procedure for tonight.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Do we need to have application presentation again, or are there any questions for the applicant in regards to the PC 2020-06? Seeing none, are there any questions for staff on the preliminary and final plat for gallery lofts?
I would just note for you that it is, one lot. This is not creating any additional easements. It does move this western boundary a little bit further to the west. It curves in order to avoid the fire access lane that I mentioned previously. So this is the only thing that's being included in this plat. And then the final plat is relatively similar.
Any questions for staff on this? Okay. Looking for public comments, I'd now like to open the public hearing on PC 2020-06. Anyone wishing to speak on this, raise your hand or dial *9 if joining the meeting by phone.
And it doesn't appear that we have anyone who wishes to speak.
Okay. Do I have a motion to close the public hearing on PC 2020-06?
Commissioner Dunn, so moved.
Commissioner Wood, second.
Okay, on the motion to close the public hearing, Commissioner Roberts,
Yes.
Commissioner Wood,
Yes.
Commissioner Dunn,
Yes.
Commissioner Spencer,
Yes.
Commissioner Barnes,
Yes.
Commissioner Stilo.
Yes.
The motion passes.
Okay, 5E, commission action number 1. Is there a motion on the preliminary plat for case 2020-06?
Commissioner Dunn, I move we approve the preliminary plat of the NKC Gallery Lofts as submitted.
Commissioner Wood, second.
Okay, on the motion to approve the preliminary plat, Commissioner Roberts,
Yes.
Commissioner Wood,
Yes.
Commissioner Dunn,
Yes.
Commissioner Spencer,
Yes.
Commissioner Barnes,
Yes.
Commissioner Stilo.
Yes.
Okay, the motion passes.
Okay. Given that the preliminary plat approved, commission action number 2, is there a motion on the final plat for case 2020-06?
Commissioner Wood, I would recommend that we send the recommendation to the City Council for approval of 2020-06.
Commissioner Dunn, second.
Okay, on the motion to recommend approval of the final plat, Commissioner Roberts,
Yes.
Commissioner Wood,
Yes.
Commissioner Dunn,
Yes.
Commissioner Spencer,
Yes.
Commissioner Barnes,
Yes.
and Commissioner Stilo.
Yes.
Okay, that also passes. I would expect the final plat to also be on the May 19th City Council agenda.
Okay, item number 6. This is PC 2020-07, a condominium plat for the current park loft at 18th and Swift. Sarah, want to have a staff review of procedure?
Sure. So this one actually might be a little simpler if I talk about the procedure and then roll right into the staff report, and then you could have the applicant follow that up instead of our usual order. In this case, this is the first condominium plat we've ever had in North Kansas City. So I think you all are pretty familiar with preliminary and final plats where we're dividing up a piece of ground in 2 dimensions. Condominium plats, it's really, think of it as being a 3-dimensional plat where we're dividing up 3 dimensions of property. So there's nothing built there right now, but eventually there will be a building and the city will own a portion of it, and other people will own the other portions of it. So this is a little bit more complicated than our typical plats. We have had this reviewed. Not only has it been put together by the applicant's engineer, but we've also had it reviewed by the city's outside legal counsel. And there will end up being several parts to this. We're looking at the physical part tonight, but there's also a declaration of condominium that's required to be filed that we aren't reviewing this evening, but it will go along with the drawings when they are recorded. And there will also be some other legal documents that accompany this when it all eventually gets filed together. So we're using the same kind of procedure. There's not a preliminary and final here, but we're still having the public hearing that would go along with the preliminary plat, and then you will be making a recommendation on the condominium plat to the City Council for their final approval. So I'll share the screen. For Curran Park Lofts, this is the location at the southwest corner of 18th and Swift. We are dividing it in this application into 4 units. Unit number 1 is parking that will be owned by the city on the ground floor, shown here in this cross hatching. Unit number 2 is parking that will be owned by the city on the ramp going up to the second floor that's shown in the horizontal stripe here. Unit number 3 will be the commercial space that will be on the ground floor along Swift Street, and some that's shown here in the crosshatch. And then we have unit 4 that's common areas, so green space outside the building, lobby area, utility rooms, really everything on that ground floor that's not going to be owned by the city or in that commercial space. This sheet in particular is kind of hard to read with all of the cross-hatching, but Clay County doesn't record documents in color, so we really had to rely on the cross-hatches to differentiate these different units. Eventually, you might think of this also as being the rough draft of the condo plat, because nothing has been built in 3 dimensions yet. We know that some of these divisions might be slightly off. So the city and the developer agree that we will come back and replat this once the building is built to make sure that everything is divided exactly as it should be. And then we will also add a unit 5 and 6, which will include the residential units and the parking that will be privately owned to serve those residential units. So you're seeing 4 pieces of this property tonight. Eventually there will be 6, and everything will be readjusted so that it's at the exact right floor levels, floor heights, and where all of the appropriate walls are. So these are the pieces tonight for this. And I will, if you have any questions for me, I'd be happy to answer those. Or Mark Moberly with the developer is here tonight, and his engineering team, if you have questions for them. Or Mark, if you want to add anything at this point.
No, Sarah, you did a great job. And like North Kansas City, this is my first go at a condo plat. So we've really relied on Remo and Jeffrey and the Olson folks to guide us through this with my attorney at Spencer Fain and legal counsel to the city of Bryan Cave. And I think we've done a good job of getting this kind of a rough draft put together and understanding how it's going to all kind of pan out once we get it built. So it's an easy process once we actually have property to do a final plat on.
And I would just note, to kind of finish the staff report part of this, we are recommending 2 conditions for this plat. One is that it shall not be recorded without the declaration of condominium. Legally, that is required. And that prior to recording, that will be reviewed and approved by the city. That would be mainly city staff. I believe that it also would eventually go before the city council, and that the replat of the condominium plat shall include an access easement across units 1 and 2 that provide access to unit 6, which would be the private parking that's included in that. Are there any questions that we can answer?
I have a question.
Commissioner Wood?
This has to go with your staff report, and it kind of harkens back to when we were discussing this a couple months ago. Item D in your staff analysis, it talks about the plat not placing any burdens or impacts on existing public facilities. And it was noted by several members of the community when we first started talking about this, about the impact on parking. And I'm just curious, how do we justify this as not having any impact on parking when it obviously will?
Are you referring to parking during the construction period or parking once the project is completed? Commissioner Wood? Did we lose Dave?
That links to the internet.
I will say that in terms of parking during the construction period, I know that that's been a big concern for people in the immediate area. The city has reached an agreement with John Miller, who owns the property to the south, to provide construction or to provide parking for the public during construction. Hopefully Dave will rejoin us. And we are also working with another property owner in the area that's indicated. I don't think we have anything to announce quite yet, but because it hasn't gone before the city council, but another property owner in the area has indicated that they're willing to also provide construction to provide parking during construction. And we think particularly for contractors and construction workers that we'll be able to accommodate them nearby. So we've done a lot of work on that to provide construction related parking because we know that this is a loss until the new parking structure is open. I would say once the building is completed, there will actually be more parking spaces on site there. And so I think if you think of that as public facility, I think we have done quite a bit to address that impact of this project. When this was before you previously, I don't think we had reached the agreement with the Millers yet. And since then, that has been completed and announced with the city council.
All right, I apologize. Zoom kicked me out there momentarily. All right, well, thank you. Thank you for addressing that.
Sure.
Are there any other questions for the applicant or staff? Jim?
Just a real quick question. Sarah, you mentioned that the city has reached an agreement with Mr. Miller. Why is that a city responsibility as opposed to a builder responsibility? And that's just my own ignorance. I'm not sure why that wouldn't be is that going to be a financial relationship with us with this project, or is that something that you could just give a little more information, be helpful? Right.
Well, since it's public parking, our goal is to provide public parking during the construction process. That's why the city has been working on this, because we're currently the property owner. We're selling the property. Yeah, and the only reason I'm asking the question is it seemed like last time we talked, the builder was indicating that they were in communications with Mr. Miller. And so that's why I was a little surprised to hear you mention that the city was now in that process. Well, Mark Sunflower has also been talking to Mr. Miller about long-term parking once construction is finished to help support the building and the tenants. That's their conversation with the Millers. Our conversation with them is really just about that construction period. Yeah. I understand. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions for the applicant or staff before we move to public comments? Okay, I now going to open the public hearing on 2020-07. Anyone wishing to speak on this item, please raise your hand or dial *9 if joining the meeting by phone.
Okay, we've had one person who has raised their hand on Zoom. It identifies this person as Reikis. And you can unmute yourself and please identify yourself and provide your address.
Hi, this is Kathleen Salerno with Hellsberg Diamonds, 1825 Swift. And I'm concerned not so much during the construction, but when the construction is completed, that it would affect I think at the last meeting, we stressed our concern regarding lack of parking or using the parking that we use parking over in that vacant area now or in that parking lot currently. And we weren't certain if that's going to be reduced with the new plans.
Well, I will say there will be slightly less parking there, but there will still be 87 public parking spaces in the parking structure.
And Sarah, can you remind me, are those, when that discussion happened, just for the sake of clarity, are those dedicated public parking spots? In other words, are condominium dwellers able to park in those public parking spots, or will they have assigned spots for themselves?
Mark, I don't know if you want to discuss how the condominium part or the private parking will be managed. The parking spaces owned by the city in Unit 1 and Unit 2 will be public parking. We anticipate that we will probably charge for overtime parking. So if you stay for more than 2 hours, you will have to pay for, the parking beyond 2 hours, but we haven't gotten into the details yet of how that would work. Mark?
Yeah, I think it's important to know that we're not doing a condo project. This is just an apartment project like One North is doing. It's just renters. We use condo because there are going to be separate owners, which is my group and the city. That's the only two owners of the project. So the city will own the 87 parking spaces as a condo. I'll own my group will own the rest as another condo. So my apartment renters will rent parking spaces from the 156 parking spaces above the city's 87. And so, yes, while I'm on top of the city spaces, you really can look at them as if they're properties side by side, and they're not related because they're not the same owner. The condo use is confusing though. So, but it's important to know we're just for rent apartments.
I understand. Thank you.
Yep.
Are there any other comments from the public?
No one else has raised their hand.
Okay, do I have a motion to close the public hearing?
Commissioner Barnes, so moved.
Stilo, second.
Okay, on the motion to close the public hearing, Commissioner Roberts?
Yes.
Commissioner Dunn?
Yes.
Commissioner Spencer?
Yes.
Commissioner Barnes?
Yes.
Commissioner Stilo?
Yes.
And Commissioner Wood?
Yes.
Okay, the motion passes.
6E, Commissioner action. Is there a motion on the condominium plat for case 2020-07?
And this would be the preliminary plan, isn't that right?
No, this is just one action for the condominium plat.
Gotcha.
This is different from the previous one and where there were two actions. Here you're just recommending approval to the city council.
Commissioner Dunn, I move that we recommend approval of the current Park Loft condominium plat with the recommended conditions.
Commissioner Barnes, second.
Okay, on the motion to recommend approval of the condominium plat with recommended conditions, Commissioner Roberts?
Yes.
Commissioner Dunn?
Yes.
Commissioner Spencer?
Yes.
Commissioner Barnes?
Yes.
Commissioner Stilo?
Yes.
And Commissioner Wood?
Yes.
Okay, the motion passes 6-0.
Thank you.
I usually say which, city council agenda I expect this to be on. I am not sure if this will be on May 19th or not. I think it might depend on the declaration of condominium document, but it will be on one of the council agendas in the near future.
Okay, item number 7, a zoning ordinance amendment. It's agenda item PC 2020-04, zoning ordinance amendment regarding accessory dwelling units. And Sarah, do you have a staff review for procedure here?
Yes, so this is an amendment to the zoning ordinance. So it does require a public hearing, and then the Planning Commission makes a recommendation to the City Council for final action. Since the city is kind of the applicant, would you like me to just keep going with the staff report?
Yeah, let's go through applicant.
You all may remember recently we had an amendment before you with regard to accessory dwelling units in the near past. Previously, you all considered whether or not to remove from the criteria for accessory dwelling units the requirement that the owner live on the property. And that was, you recommended denial and the city council did turn down that amendment. Then we had a request from city council member Rick Stewart to consider an amendment to remove accessory dwelling units from the zoning ordinance altogether, and that is the item that's before you tonight. We would remove the entire section 1712.030B, which regards accessory dwelling units, and then remove the reference to accessory dwelling units from the required parking table. The accessory dwelling units were added to the zoning ordinance in the zoning ordinance update that was adopted last July. There were several reasons to include accessory dwelling units in the ordinance. And if you look in particular in the staff report at the bottom of page 2 and top of page 3, some of the goals of the master plan include attract new residents and increase homeownership rates that support sustainable economic and social benefits. And the principles in that theme included implementing multiple strategies to double daytime and nighttime population, encourage a full spectrum of housing options for more people to age in place, increase the supply of townhomes, loft style, multifamily options around centers of activity and along transit corridors, and expand housing to support retail businesses. While we don't expect there to be an explosion of accessory dwelling units in North Kansas City, they do provide another housing option, particularly for people who are aging, for people who might have family members living with them, whether that's, aging parents or, children who are returning from college for a while, or you might have a disabled sibling who continues to live with you. AARP supports the implementation of accessory dwelling units as a housing option because they can enable homeowners to provide for these various living arrangements. They can also provide an opportunity for someone who needs a caregiver to have a caregiver living in close proximity. To date, we don't really have any evidence that owner-occupied properties with ADUs provide a negative impact on our neighborhoods. We've had several inquiries about ADUs, but only one application has been filed with us. We've returned comments to that property owner and they haven't responded to those yet. So we don't have any ADUs that have been constructed. But I would note that the criteria included in the zoning ordinance attempted to address that by requiring they be owner-occupied, that they provide on-site parking space, and that the ADU fit into the design of the primary home. So staff would recommend against this, this amendment, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Sarah, I know, Commissioner Dunn, I know that there has been some discussion at the council level, and there's been, maybe some work being done, the possibility of sort of strengthening the rental inspection processes and that kind of thing as a way to prevent from becoming an outbreak of these from maybe unscrupulous homeowners who want to rent these units. Can you give me any kind of update about where things are with that and discussions that are going on?
So the direction staff received from the city council after that work session was to work more closely with our finance department to help identify rental units that are turning over based on water billing. And so we're working on doing that. That it's, just been a few weeks. So we haven't yet, but we're working on doing that. We inspect about 300 rental units a year because the inspection happens between occupants. So if somebody lives in a unit for 2 years, we'll wait until they move out and then do the inspection. Landlords are supposed to contact us. So we believe that we have at least almost all, if not all of our landlords registered with the city right now in our landlord registration program that allows us to have better contact with them. So, we think we know where they all are. And so we work on a regular basis to help notify them of the inspection process and requirement. I would note that it would be possible for an ADU to be constructed and not be required to have a rental inspection if it was owned by a family member. So they would not necessarily be required to have a rental inspection unless they were actually rented to a non-family member, if that makes sense.
It does.
Okay.
You know, I just have a couple of concerns about this. This is obviously an issue that seems to be coming back to us from the council. We've seen now a couple of these rebound. They're clearly telegraphing a concern. Now they're different concerns, but there seems to be an ongoing concern from city council members about the ADUs. I will tell you, I have a concern just having watched what has unfolded in Kansas City, and as someone who owns some rentals in the Kansas City area, there has been a great deal of problem in Kansas City with a number of rental kinds of issues. And I understand that this isn't just rentals. I mean, the ADUs can take a number of different forms, but they are also then ripe for misuse, I believe, in some cases. And, you know, I am probably, we also know that we're likely going to see a new council. Not likely, we will see new council members coming on board soon. You know, I would really, personally, I have some real reservations about moving forward one way or the other with this. Personally, I kind of like the idea of there being more opportunity for some input from both the public and from this council and the new council that'll be coming up. But there are some real red flags for me with these ADUs. And I understand the recommendations from AARP. That sounds great if you have a property in Vail, Colorado that is 4,000 square feet and you want to make a mother-in-law's quarters, or you want to build a property out back. That doesn't describe most of the properties in North Kansas City. So I would just, that's just kind of my 2 cents worth, but I'm concerned that we're continuing to see this council really telegraphing some concerns about this particular item.
Sarah?
I have a question. Sarah. If we remove ADUs from the zoning ordinance, where does the oversight go?
Well, if you removed it from the zoning ordinance, then this would be similar to the old ordinance. We would not permit any accessory dwelling units.
Okay.
Sarah?
That's kind of what I thought.
Mayor Stilo?
You know, I know the feeling and I'm basically, I think it's just one councilman, but I kind of hate to see us go that far. I believe that there is a need for the way it is right now, and I would like to see it just stay that way.
I would tend to agree. I got no issue with ADUs as they're currently governed. I mean, the changes that are being proposed, I don't agree with at all. So I'm kind of inclined with you, Mayor. Just let's decline this motion and leave it like it is.
Yeah.
It's kind of my feeling as well, guys. I feel like there is a middle ground here. I know on one extreme, you know, it's any ADU wherever with no owner. On the other end is no ADUs, and there's probably justification on both sides. But about the best compromise we've been able to strike so far that I've seen is we have them, but the owner occupancy requirement remain. And so far, we haven't seen any explosion of issues with that, even though it's been allowed for about the past year, I believe. So I'd kind of like to see how it plays out in current form, personally.
Mayor Stilo?
Plus that, I'm getting old. That's awesome.
Aren't we all?
Okay.
I would just add, you know, to Commissioner Dunn's point, I think this is the second time we have had something from the city council, and both times I know Bryant came, but I think that's the only person that's actually come from the city council. I mean, I know, Mayor Stilo is obviously a part of all that, but it would be nice if more folks would come from the city council to weigh in here when they kick these things over. I'll just put that on record.
I think I should technically open for public comments next, just to make sure we're following process. I'd like to open a public hearing for PC 2020-04. Anyone wishing to speak on this item, please raise your hand or dial *9 if joining the meeting by phone.
We do have one person who's raised their hand, so I'd recognize Bryant DeLong.
That's it, Jonathan.
You already
Am I-
spoke, Brian.
Am I on here? This is a little bit different setup than our city council one. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear
We
you.
can
If you
hear
could
you.
identify yourself and give us your
Sorry,
address, please.
Councilmember Bryant DeLong, 2316 Fayette Street. Good evening, commissioners. Sorry, I was going to keep my hand down. Then I heard the schedule of events again. I just want to go over. So sorry, you're seeing this again because of my previous amendment, my previous zoning amendment request, which was removing the owner occupancy requirement. And so it did get shot back after that and a discussion to try to remove the whole thing. I don't know if there's a lot of substance to that conversation on that side, at least initially, but sorry, it's my fault. It's here again, really. I think we're just kind of going in a circle, but I really have nothing else to add.
Any other
Unless anyone
comments?
has any other questions
Yeah.
on that. I don't know. Yeah.
Any other comments from the public?
No one else has raised their hand to speak on this item.
Is there a motion to close the public hearing?
Commissioner Wood, so moved.
Commissioner Roberts, second.
Okay, on the motion to close the public hearing, Commissioner Roberts,
Yes.
Commissioner Dunn,
Yes.
Commissioner Spencer,
Yes.
Commissioner Barnes,
Yes.
Commissioner Stilo,
Yeah.
and Commissioner Wood.
Yes.
The motion to close the public hearing passes.
And I believe the next item, is there a motion for case PC 2020-04?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Wood here. I would move that we decline to recommend this approval to the City Council, item 2020-04.
Commissioner Barnes, second.
Okay, there's been a motion to move to decline the amendment. Commissioner Roberts,
Yes.
Commissioner Dunn,
Yes.
Commissioner Spencer,
Yes.
Commissioner Barnes,
Yes.
Commissioner Stilo,
Yes.
and Commissioner Wood.
Yes.
Okay, so the motion passes. This item will still appear on the City Council agenda, but it will appear with a recommendation for recommendation to decline the amendment.
Sarah? Sarah,
Yes, sir.
if the council wanted to, couldn't they go ahead and do it regardless of what we're recommending?
They could.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's what I thought, yeah.
But because you're a recommending body on this type of application, it still moves on to the City Council
Right,
for their
yeah.
final action.
Okay, thank you.
Before we adjourn, is there anything else, Sarah? Comments, final comments, questions?
Well, I want to thank you for your patience with this platform. I think it worked pretty well. And we did want to keep both of those development applications moving forward, and they were both ready. So I appreciate your patience with the virtual platform. If we, while we're not under a stay-at-home order anymore, we are still can't have gatherings of more than 25 people. And since Planning Commission needs to be open to anyone who wants to speak, I don't know how many people we had at maximum tonight, but we were at least close to that 25 person threshold. I'm not sure what we will do with our June meeting. One, 'cause I'm not sure if we'll have cases to bring before you, but I also don't know where we'll be with with Clay County Public Health Department. So we will keep you all posted about whether we'll hold a meeting and what format it will be on. So thank you all for.
I just want to say I'm perfectly fine with this format as long as Byron keeps being the chairperson. He's doing a great job. Great job, Mike.
Thanks, Dave.
It is 7 o'clock. Mr. Mayor, would you like to call the meeting to order?
To you and your staff as well.
Yes, let's call this meeting to order. City of North Kansas City, Missouri. Regular council meeting, May 5th,
things don't look like
2020.
they're a lot of work, but there's a lot of work going on.
We have a
behind the
moment of
scenes. So
silence.
thank you very much for making this work as well.
Oh, if you don't mind, one other announcement. Mallory did have her baby yesterday. After Clayton Joshua, they're both doing well.
Good.
Great.
Great
Thank you. Give her our best.
I will.
Great.
On that, do I have
I
a
believe
motion to
I
adjourn?
believe it's Mr. Clevenger's turn
Councilman
to lead the
Wood,
Pledge of
so-
Allegiance.
So moved.
Okay.
Councilman Dunn, second.
Okay, on the motion to adjourn, Commissioner Roberts,
Yes.
Commissioner Dunn,
Yes.
Commissioner Spencer,
Yes.
Commissioner Barnes,
Yes.
Commissioner Stilo,
Yes.
and Commissioner Wood.
Yes.
Right, the
I said
meeting
count.
is adjourned.
Sorry about that. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Guys.